What if your biggest, most crushing failure was actually the secret ingredient to a multi-million-dollar idea? Well, this is that story. It's about two friends who lost absolutely everything, only to invent a simple, kind of goofy product that ended up in 18 different countries and completely changed their lives forever.
Look, we've all had setbacks, right? But what about a string of failures so bad that you're left with literally nothing? How do you even begin to bounce back from that? We're going to dig into that very question by following the wild ride of Matt and Sam, a couple of entrepreneurs who had to lose it all before they could win. So, our story kicks off with two best friends, Matt and Sam. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they had a dream. Theirs was a small business called International Gifts, and they were all in, totally convinced they were going to make it big. On paper, they seemed like the perfect team. You had Matt, the inventor, the ideas guy. He was working around the clock, just constantly cranking out new product concepts. And then you had Sam, the smooth-talking salesman, brimming with confidence. The only problem? He wasn't actually closing any deals. Something just wasn't connecting. The result was just rejection after rejection. For example, they'd create this watch with a dog on it. A shop owner would say, "I love it," but then place an order so huge they had no way to afford the manufacturing. Then they'd make a golf-themed watch, and they'd get told it looked too cheap. They were just stuck in this loop, and their business was hanging on by a thread. And you know what happens when people get desperate? They start making bad calls. Their hope in one last-ditch invention sent them down a really dark path, one that would have some pretty devastating consequences. This was supposed to be their savior, the lottery watch. Matt came up with a watch that would generate 6 random lucky numbers for people playing the lottery. They were absolutely sure this thing would be a monster hit in Las Vegas. Even their own financial advisor told them point blank, this is a terrible idea, but they were too far gone to listen. Yeah, needing cash, their bad decisions spiraled into a total disaster. First, they took the little money the office had left and lost it all betting on dog races. But then it got so much worse. Matt's wife, Gina, gave them her personal savings to try and save the business. She made them promise not to gamble it. They took her money, went straight to a blackjack table, and lost every last penny. And that was pretty much it. The money was gone, the promise to Gina was broken, and Matt and Sam hit absolute rock bottom. This wasn't just about a failing business anymore. Their entire lives were just imploding. So let's just recap the damage here. Gina, understandably, left Matt. They got kicked out of their office. Every sense was gone. And their dream, it wasn't just on pause. It was completely and utterly destroyed. They had nothing. So to just get by, they had to take whatever jobs they could get. Matt, the inventor with all these ideas, was now working in a furniture store. And Sam, the charismatic salesman, was doing manual labor on a construction site. I mean, talk about a fall from grace. And just when you think, okay, it cannot possibly get any worse, the universe throws one last punch. One night, Matt's watching TV, and he sees a commercial for their dog watch. A competitor had straight up stolen their idea and was making a fortune from it, and there was absolutely nothing they could do but watch. But, sometimes, when you finally hit the absolute bottom, when it seems like it's all over, a little spark of inspiration can come from the most random place. And that's exactly what happened next. I mean, really, think about it. Your dream is crushed. Your big idea is stolen and making someone else rich on national TV. Was there any way forward? It sure didn't look like it. But then this happens. Matt and Sam are sitting in a bar, just totally defeated. The bartender comes over, pops the cap off a beer for them, and says, "Now it's time for a beer." And in that one simple moment, hearing that sound, that phrase, a light bulb just went off in Matt's head. He immediately started working on what would become the talking bottle opener. And the idea was genius because it was so simple. A totally normal bottle opener, but every single time you use it to open a bottle, it plays a little sound clip. No buttons, nothing complicated, just a perfect, simple, surprising piece of fun. Okay, so they had this fantastic new idea. The only problem? They were still completely, totally broke. So they had one last giant mountain to climb to make this thing a reality. So Sam, without even telling Matt, went to the one person they had left, Gina. He showed her the prototype. She thought it was hilarious. He even snuck it into her bag. And when she showed it to her pilot friends at work,
They all went crazy for it. They all wanted one. Seeing that reaction, Gina took the biggest leap of faith imaginable. She invested her entire retirement savings for a 1/3 share in the new company. But the universe wasn't done testing them yet. The first batch of 5,000 bottle openers arrived from China, and the sound quality was awful. Just terrible. But here's what was different this time. They didn't give up. Matt flew to the factory himself and personally worked until every single one of those units sounded perfect. So they take the finished product to a trade show. And at first, crickets. A little bit of interest, but no one's buying. Then, one toy store owner places a huge order. And suddenly, a crowd forms around their booth. Then another order comes in, and another. By the end of the day, they were completely flooded with sales. And you know who was watching from across the aisle, completely stunned? Their old rival. And just like that, their simple little idea exploded into a global phenomenon. It really proves that sometimes real, lasting success only shows up after you've learned some really tough lessons from your biggest failures. So, just how successful were they? Well, that simple talking bottle opener went on to sell over 10 million units. Let that sink in. 10 million. And this wasn't just a local fad, either. Their little invention made its way to customers in 18 different countries. They even made custom versions with voices like Homer Simpson, turning it into a worldwide sensation. But the money is one thing. The real success story here is that they got to rebuild what they'd lost. Matt and Gina got back together. Sam and his girlfriend Cinda built a happy life. After everything they went through, they didn't just find success, they found happiness. So the story of Matt and Sam kind of leaves us with this one question to think about. When you get tired, when you failed, and you just feel like you can't possibly go on, will you stop for good, or will you just rest for a bit? Their whole journey shows us that sometimes the best ideas don't come when you're pushing harder and harder, but maybe, just maybe, after you've paused, taken a breath, and just opened yourself up to the world around you.